After we first met Dr. Hinton, Jesse reached out to me by phone. Here's one of many very strange messages.
We agreed to travel anywhere in the world to meet with Jesse so he could substantiate these extraordinary claims. It hasn't happened yet. He says the people paid to take care of him won't let him come out.
Now, of course, the only conclusive evidence would be DNA. Now, the doctor and the alleged Elvis have agreed to take a DNA test for us. We are in the process of gathering those samples. Also, our handwriting expert, Mary Kelly, says
the most conclusive evidence would be if they would agree to exhume the wax body, if it is indeed a wax body.
But they won't. That's the interesting question. I've had a lot of questions. People ask me, do you think he's alive? What have you seen? I can honestly say I've seen a lot of information on one side, perhaps that he is alive, but absolutely nothing from the other side to prove he's dead.
You say he travels, he could be watching us right now.
It's possible. So the question remains, is Elvis Presley still alive? Well, the answer most likely lies in the DNA samples that we have obtained. Samples that Jesse says will prove once and for all that he is Elvis. We will bring you those DNA results tomorrow night right here on Fox 8 News at 10 o'clock.
Tomorrow night, 10 o'clock here. Not going to miss that one.
A lot of people want him to be alive, that's for sure.
And the results have been pouring in for the last several days. I can honestly tell you, I just received the final results within the last several hours.
This is the DNA we've been waiting for. Tomorrow night
for
at 10.
7 months.
Find out what you
Tomorrow
found.
at 10.
Okay.
Okay, can't wait.
It's big.
Well,
Is Elvis Presley dead or alive? Tonight, it is D-Day for DNA. We're back in 3 minutes with the results from the lab. Is this man named Jesse, in fact, Elvis? 3 simple letters will reveal if he's telling the truth. Those letters are DNA.
Fox 8 News reporter Suzanne Stratford continues her report on the man who would be king. Some painstaking work for you here, Suzanne.
those 3 letters were very, very hard to get to and to bring you this report tonight, but our viewers wanted it, we wanted it, so here it is. 25 years after his death, is Elvis Presley ready to make the comeback of all time? Well, a doctor who claims he's treating the king says yes, but we wanted scientific proof, and so did you. So tonight, the long-awaited DNA test results are in.
Kansas City Dr. Donald Hinton stepped forward claiming Elvis Presley was his patient. He said Elvis faked his death and was living as his deceased twin brother Jesse. Hinton published this book containing letters allegedly written by Elvis, now Jesse, and this picture, supposedly Elvis today.
It is absolutely Elvis Aaron Presley. This is not a trick. This is not a hoax. It's just the absolute truth.
If you're treating a patient, there has to be a medical record. For the first time, Dr. Hinton is sharing with us this medical file.
Visits with the patient and telephone contact with the patient.
With Jesse's permission, we reviewed the medical record, which documents 5.5 years of treatment. Jesse suffers from depression, chronic pain, and yes, he insists he's Elvis Presley.
They ask, why is he doing it now? And it is for spiritual reasons. It's not to come back and make money. It's all for what this individual wants to do for his soul.
Each and every day becomes more stressful. He can't just come out. If he could have done that, he'd have done that years ago.
Linda Felix Johnson's another friend allegedly protecting the king. If Jesse isn't motivated by money, what's their motivation? The publisher confirmed neither Linda or Dr. Hinton have made any money off their book.
I want his safety. These people don't understand. This is a true story. This is real.
He is in the United States. He is in different places at different times. He is making his plans based on his spiritual beliefs. If nothing happens, it would be because it was prevented from happening.
Elvis has left the building.
Okay, so how could there possibly be 3 different sets of DNA? That is a question we have now put to the Tennessee Attorney General's office and the Shelby County District Attorney. Both say they are looking into our findings. As for Dr. Hinton, we feel that we've given him every opportunity to prove his story, and he still does stand by his story. The only real proof, of course, is for Jesse to come forward and prove it if he is Elvis, or if Lisa Marie would provide us with her DNA. We will keep you posted as the saga now continues.
You have more of a mystery now than you did when you started. Where in the world do you go from here?
We go to Tennessee. We need to find out what exactly is going on with those 2 sets of tissue samples. We need to know. So we're going to keep pursuing this, keep investigating.
This is very confusing indeed. And it'd be interesting to find out what you think right now, quickly.
We were looking for a clear-cut answer. Our viewers were looking for it, and the Pandora's box just opened wide.
Wow. We look forward to it.
Thanks, Susan.
Really something.
Thank you, Suzanne.
The Tennessee Attorney General's office and the Shelby County District Attorney both say they are looking into it because, at a minimum, the autopsy tissue should match the liver biopsy tissue, and they don't match, and of course Jesse doesn't match either one either.
So does that mean now the question is, where is he, or who's in the grave, or what?
That's the question. That's a very good question. That is the question.
But nothing matched Jesse's. We have anything
At this point, no.
That matched this guy.
At this point, that's correct. And we feel like we've given Dr. Hinton time to prove this. He says Jesse will prove himself, so we're waiting. If you know, we need Lisa Marie, we need Jesse, or we need Graceland to cooperate. Those are the three things we're looking for right now.
Well, Jesse is coming back before January 1st. He's got about a month, so...
Time's ticking.
Thank you, Suzanne. Very interesting.
Beanie and the doctor arrived at a startling conclusion.
I can't argue with science. Elvis was not in the casket.
Beanie's friends formed the Presley Commission. They took their evidence to Memphis and tried to get the case reopened. Both the local police and Tennessee Attorney General's office refused. Lisa Marie also respectfully refused our request for DNA. And a spokesperson from Elvis Presley Enterprises writes, "The book is so completely ridiculous that we will not dignify it with participation in your story. But thank you for offering us the opportunity."
If Elvis is out there and had reasons for doing what he did, then that truth should be known. If it was a fact that Elvis Presley died, then that truth should be known.
The Missouri attorney prescribed medication, some have said maybe it was a drug ring. While the DEA investigated that and did not find that to be the case. As for Memphis, well, we also tried to get authorities there to investigate the mismatched DNA, but they refused. And as for Jesse, well, as you know, we are trying to track him down. We'd like to talk to him, and there are some authorities out there who'd like to talk to him, too.
And maybe one day it'll happen.
Let's hope. One day soon.
All right. Thanks.
She is the King's half-sister, and that Elvis is still alive. But whatever happened to the doctor who started all of this? Fox 8's Suzanne Stratford finds out for us.
What's it like coming back here?
It's painful to think about it again.
Kansas City psychiatrist Dr. Donald Hinton was summoned back to Memphis to meet with attorneys.
A lot of mixed emotions. Mostly, I don't want to be here.
The attorneys represent a woman named Eliza who claims she's Elvis Presley's half-sister. Lab reports suggest that her DNA not only matches the Presley family, but also matches a man who claimed he was Elvis back in 2002. And his DNA matches both sides of the Elvis family tree. The man, who calls himself Jesse after Elvis's deceased twin brother, was Dr. Hinton's patient back in 2002.
It was one of the most talked about stories in Cleveland history.
6 years ago, a doctor claimed Elvis Presley was still alive and that he was treating him. Fox 8's Suzanne Stratford joining us with developments tonight.
It's like deja vu all over again. Here we go. The man claiming to be Elvis Presley said he wanted to come out and prove to the world he was still alive, but he never did. Well, now new DNA evidence has led to a landmark court case in Tennessee, and this man's DNA is in the mix of it all. What's this all about? Well, here's how it all went down.
Elvis Presley rattled the world with his rock and roll as seen in the Comeback special. And 25 years after his death, a Kansas City doctor got everyone shaken again.
Is Elvis Presley alive?
Absolutely. I would never treat anyone without seeing them eye to eye. And it is truly Elvis Aaron Presley.
That was 2002, when we first met Dr. Donald Hinton in Missouri. The board-certified psychiatrist claimed that Elvis was still alive and his patient.
Welcome to my world.
Dr. Hinton passed a lie detector test and showed us presents from his patient, like cufflinks that Aunt Margaret gave Elvis after filming Viva Las Vegas.
Well, I'd like you to check my motor. It whistles.
Don't blame it.
Hinton published this book at his patient's request. Letters allegedly written by Elvis, now using the name of Elvis's deceased twin brother, Jesse Garon Presley.
I'm so lonesome.
Jesse claims he faked his death with the help of his manager, Colonel Tom Parker.
The Colonel told Elvis, in faking his death, that the Colonel would make more money off of this than Elvis made in his entire lifetime.
Elvis Presley Enterprises continues to grow, earning $49 million in 2007 alone.
We're caught in a trap.
The Colonel did it for the money.
I can't walk out.
But Elvis did it because he said, I just had to get away.
Perhaps to escape an unhealthy lifestyle and threats against his family.
So a lot of his motivation was for his own physical safety.
So why come back?
He's so focused on his own religion and spirituality and what he feels he must do before he truly passes from this earth.
Back then and still today, Jesse claims that the proof that he is Elvis and still alive is all around us. From the misspelling of his name at Graceland to the various books and publications and movies released over the years.
I'm home.
Finding Graceland, produced by Priscilla Presley, is all about Elvis being alive.
She does know the truth. She's known for a very long time.
Is that why the King's name is misspelled on his tombstone? Elvis's middle name Aaron was spelled with one A, but here there are clearly two.
Because he didn't want his full real name on a grave that he was not in.
Cousins at the funeral say the body looked like wax.
His hairline looked as if it had been a hairpiece, something glued on.
There were a lot of comments about, it just didn't look like Elvis Presley.
Also curious, 6 months after the death, this picture was taken and certified by Kodak.
My God, I had Elvis Presley sitting in the doorway, looking out at the fans walking past his grave.
So what does he look like now? Hinton claims that this is Elvis during a visit with Lisa Marie and her son Benji.
and he doesn't look like people expect him to look because he hasn't aged in front of us.
Here's the photo side by side with other photographs of Elvis. And here's a picture of Benji. What do you think? Graceland says no way.
We firmly believe that person who died on August 16th was Elvis.
Then who is Jesse? Determined to find out, we took the letters to Mary Kelly, a forensic document examiner. She compared them to this published letter written by Elvis in 1972.
I couldn't say that they were the same writer, and I certainly couldn't say that they weren't the same writer.
We asked to meet Jesse, but it never happened. So with the help of a forensic scientist, Tony Tambasco, we sent him a DNA kit. We compared that DNA to several envelopes sent by Jesse.
There would be a complete profile that we would be able to attribute to a single individual.
We requested DNA from Lisa Marie, but it was denied. It was time to track down our own DNA. The search started with what else? A sweaty scarf. Tony swabbed the scarf, but the DNA was too degraded.
DNA, as it leaves the body, will maintain its integrity for a long time, but yeah, it will break down.
Did you know Elvis? Yeah, I knew Elvis.
That's when we met Nashville entertainer and friend Jimmy Velvet, who had a pair of blood-stained jeans.
He threw a fit at Graceland one time because his car wouldn't start, and he jumped up on the hood and kicked his foot through the windshield and cut his leg.
We tested the blood stain, but the results returned with multiple DNA profiles. Possible contamination from people touching it over the years, and neither matched Jesse's DNA.
Where that DNA came from on the jeans is anybody's guess.
Finally, we learned of businessman Bill Beanie. He had medical records from a Memphis doctor that contained tissue samples from 2 liver biopsies and the autopsy. Would they match Jesse? At the lab, they discovered something startling.
All 3 samples appear to be from different individuals because each one of them has a different DNA type.
Elvis's liver tissue sample is different than Elvis's autopsy tissue sample, and neither matches Jesse.
It's over.
Or so we thought. 6 years later, Jesse's DNA has led to a landmark lawsuit in Memphis, Tennessee, filed by a woman who says not only is Jesse Elvis, but she's his half-sister.
Do you believe that Jesse is Elvis?
He has to be. There's no 2 ways about it. But you can't fake the DNA.
All right, well, did the DNA from Jesse sent to us in 2002 match Eliza? We know it led to a landmark lawsuit in Memphis, Tennessee. Tomorrow night at 10, you will hear her story and see firsthand what she and her attorney call irrefutable proof that not only is she Elvis Presley's half-sister, but she says he's still alive. It's in court. It's in the courts right now, and you will see all of it.
You know, you hear this stuff, and you kind of think maybe this is a little crazy, and then you see pictures, and DNA's not right, and then you're like, well, what is going on here?
I feel like Alice in Wonderland. I fell down the rabbit hole 6 years ago, and I'm still there. You know, still working my way through it.
It does plant a seed in your mind.
It does.
All right, tomorrow night at 10, we'll be back. Thank you, Suzanne.
Ready, here we go. 6 years after a doctor claimed he was treating Elvis Presley in 2002, could new DNA evidence finally prove that he's alive?
Fox 8's Suzanne Stratford joins us with this new DNA evidence and the woman who claims she's Elvis's half-sister.
That is all true. We spoke to this woman exclusively. She spoke to Fox 8 after she says DNA we received from the man claiming he's Elvis matched her own DNA. And she says DNA from Elvis's family members also matches. So is Elvis alive, and is she really his half-sister? You decide.
Oh, I wish I was in a land of cotton.
It was the first program beamed around the world by satellite.
I had a next-door neighbor. I went over to her house. The satellite one from Hawaii, she was there watching it.
But 11-year-old Eliza could have cared less.
I was like, why are people still watching him now? And I remember she gave me this look like, are you insane? We're talking about Elvis Presley here.
Several years later, as fans said goodbye to the king, Eliza learned she was adopted. She met her birth mother and wanted to meet her biological dad.
She gave me his name. I tracked him down.
In Memphis, Tennessee. But sadly, the man said he didn't know her mother.
And he has denied it from day one.
She wondered, if he wasn't her father, then who was? Eliza's husband had a theory after seeing these pictures of Elvis as a child next to photos of their own children.
He looked at the picture, looked at me, and was like, I'm telling you, you're related to the man.
Sure, her mother grew up near Graceland, and yes, she spent time with Elvis as documented in this newspaper clipping, but realistically...
And I remember going, you're crazy.
She dismissed the thought, until a cancer scare.
If something were to happen to me tomorrow, I still wouldn't know the truth.
Well, a hard-headed woman, soft-hearted man.
The only way to know was DNA. Eliza tells us she collected samples from Elvis's family. Donna Presley, a first cousin on his father's side, and Brenda Smith, a first cousin on his mother's side. The results stunned her. According to the lab report, Eliza is biologically related to Donna Presley. Interesting, but she needed Elvis's DNA to really prove he was her dad.
I would never treat anyone without seeing them eye to eye and it is truly Elvis Aaron Presley.
In 2002, we interviewed Kansas City psychiatrist Dr. Donald Hinton. He claimed Elvis was his patient, that he faked his death, and went by the name of his deceased twin brother Jesse. Jesse, Dr. Hinton's patient, sent us his DNA, which we tested against several items certified as the King's, including bloodstained jeans.
Did you know Elvis?
Yeah, I knew Elvis.
Nashville entertainer and friend Jimmy Velvet.
He threw a fit at something one time because the car wouldn't start, and he jumped up on the hood and kicked his foot through the windshield.
The bloodstained DNA did not match Jesse, but then none of the so-called certified Elvis samples matched each other.
And that's where our story ended. Until about 10 months ago when Eliza tracked us down. She had heard of our DNA tests and believed that at least one sample was from Elvis.
That was the original reason I ever tracked you down, was to test against that. I still didn't believe the whole scenario of the Jesse thing.
We sent our reports to the Paleo DNA laboratory. They determined Eliza did not match the genes, but say she did match Jesse's DNA, except not as father-daughter.
He's not your father. It seems like he's your half-brother. And I went, he's my what?
A random man who claimed he was Elvis and gave us his DNA matched Eliza as her half-brother. And he matched both sides of Elvis's family tree.
Well, how the hell does that happen that somebody you've never laid eyes on, that you didn't believe existed, is now your sibling?
Do you believe that Jesse is Elvis?
He has to be. There's no two ways about it. You can't fake the DNA.
But what does the DNA really mean? We asked forensic scientist Tony Tambasco, who handled the original DNA testing for us.
It does look like wow.
Tony tried to review the numbers like a criminal case, but
generally we don't deal with siblings and or cousins.
in criminal cases, it's first-person irrefutable DNA beyond a reasonable doubt. But Tony says this type of testing is different.
The likelihood ratio, it assumes to begin with that there is a relationship, and then it compares that to the general population.
And Tony says, although there is DNA in common, many unrelated people can share common DNA markers. He says the only absolute way to know is...
Priscilla's still alive. Lisa Marie's alive. You could compare that easily, and the issue could easily be resolved.
But Eliza is so confident that Elvis's dad, Vernon, is also her father, she changed her name to Presley and took Elvis Presley Enterprises to court.
Don't cry, Daddy.
Many people have tried to sue Elvis Presley Enterprises over the years, usually a self-proclaimed love child. This case is different for a number of reasons. For starters, it's the first time someone has claimed they're Elvis's half-sister. And more importantly, it's the first time the courts have reopened the estate.
Obviously, we would have preferred that she not reopen it, but those are matters that we'll address in court.
Attorney William Bradley represents EPE. He says the case is very upsetting to the family. And as for Elvis being alive...
Our position is that that's just nonsense.
I'm all shook up. But the case sure has tongues wagging in Memphis. Probate court clerk Chris Thomas says...
A lot of people have been surprised and curious as to what's there. All the money's been distributed. There's nothing left for this young lady to get monetarily.
But Eliza says she's not after money.
I think it was to be such a travesty that he really does die, and I never even get to meet him.
Now, many people wonder, and I'm sure you do too, why won't Lisa Marie just give the DNA and settle this once and for all? But Elvis Presley Enterprises says there are so many false claims against them. If they do it for one, they would have to do it for all. Eliza's attorney, however, says this case will most likely be dismissed in probate court where it began, and then it will be filed in Chancery Court. And right now it is working its way through the court system.
But it's a big deal to have it reopened, right?
It's huge. It really is, because they have been sued so many times. This is the first time that they have ever reopened the estate. The judges found enough evidence to reopen the estate. Where it goes from there, we'll be watching very closely.
And again, no money, but she has, who's my father, who's my family,
right.
Am I related, and I'm lost in all this.
Absolutely. And when she first began looking for her father, again, she wasn't looking for Elvis Presley. She was looking for, just her father. She was a little girl who was given up for adoption trying to find her birth parents. So she really wasn't looking for Elvis, but in her search, it led her to Graceland.
Fascinating.
It is fascinating.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Melissa Scheffler. Merle has the night off.
I'm Steve Dawson. A case of a woman claiming to be Elvis's half-sister will move forward in the courts. The estate of Elvis Presley's father has been reopened. Now, this comes after a petition filed by a woman claiming to be Vernon Presley's love child, which would make her Elvis Presley's half-sister. Fox 13's Lauren Lee joins us here in the studio with more on this perplexing legal affair. Lauren?
That's right, Steve. The petitioner says she has DNA evidence to prove she is the daughter of Vernon Presley. She says a DNA sample of Elvis's proves that she is the King's half-sister. And she says she got the sample from Elvis himself. This is Eliza Presley. The Washington State resident is in Memphis to prove she is the daughter of Vernon Presley, the half-sister to Elvis Presley. Eliza and her attorney appeared in probate court Wednesday.
Our facts came out strongly, and we simply want a day for her to be heard when all of the proof can come out.
Eliza Presley, who recently changed her name from Alice Pippin, did not speak on camera but made her case in open court. She says she supplied Elvis's DNA to the firm DNA Consulting, and the results prove she is Elvis's half-sister. She says she got the DNA evidence from Jesse Presley. She says Jesse Presley is the assumed name of Elvis Presley. She says DNA Consulting processed the sample this summer, even comparing it to DNA from some of Elvis's first cousins.
And they've been tested and retested by various labs, and the proof is conclusive that her allegations are correct.
Eliza says her quest to find her father started when she found out she was adopted. She says her birth mother lived across the street from Graceland and says she spent time with the Presley family as a teenager. But she says her mother denies Vernon Presley, 25 years her senior, is the father. The attorney for Elvis Presley Enterprises was speechless when asked about the claim that Elvis lives under the assumed name Jesse, and surprised the judge reopened Vernon's estate.
We've only had to come into court on two, but we've had at least a dozen people claim that they are primarily children of Elvis. This is the first child of Vernon that we've had.
Probate court judge Karen Webster said by reopening the estate, she was not ruling on the paternity or heirship, but her ruling does allow the case to go forward.
I don't understand what the purpose is going to be. We're going to have a reopened estate, but she's not going to determine heirship, and there's no money.
Eliza said she just wants to be acknowledged by the Presley family. Eliza Presley's attorney says reopening the estate allows her to issue summons to parties connected to Vernon Presley's estate. Elvis Presley Enterprises attorney says she has no case because of statute of limitations and adoption laws. The next hearing has not been scheduled. And I just got off the phone with the DNA specialist out of Arizona. He says he believes Eliza is Elvis's half-sister and that Elvis is still alive. He says the proof is there. DNA evidence doesn't lie. In the studio, Lauren Lee, Fox 13 News.
It's the mystery video sweeping social media. Is that really Elvis Presley? The tall man with white hair, a white beard, and dark sunglasses was seen visiting Elvis's Graceland estate on what would have been the King's 82nd birthday. Some claim he looks just as Elvis would have looked as an elderly man. Yes, the truth is getting out. Elvis is alive, wrote excited fans.
1, 2. Oh, what's up? This is for my wife.
people ask is, you know, what would he be doing now, or you know, what would his life be? And I think, you know, Elvis would always be a part of music, no matter what. I mean, it was in his blood. I think that maybe he'd be going into gospel, maybe even preaching a little bit. He loved to have, you know, he loved to teach, and, you know, privileged children are, you know.
And Elvis wanted her to have everything.
Because he didn't really know. He too grew up very, very poor.
Yeah, poor.
And it's exactly what you said the other day. Poor, right.
Oh.
She called her neighbors and her friends and her loved ones and her kinfolk and Aunt Sally and Uncle Joe. And Cousin Vinny. And everybody else you could think of. Boy, you... I remember when I was a little kid, we was downtown with my family, and we was poor, and we lived in a government project. We was downtown, and my mother had just a little bit of money in her purse. Didn't have hardly anything left after we got downtown. How are we gonna get back? Right. So I said, I gotta go to the bathroom. I was about 9, 10 years old. I went down to the men's room, walking along there, looked down there on the floor, and there was a $20 bill down on the floor. And you'd have thought I'd have hit the jackpot, you know. I mean, back then, $10, $20 bill, brother, that was like a $100 bill, you know. So I reached down there.
It is treasure.
I didn't go to the needless to say, I didn't go to the men's room. I ran right back upstairs. I said, Mama, look right. She said, hide that thing down there. Don't show anybody that money. Put it back down in your pocket.
Waiting in the hotel room, he would go over and pick up the Gideon Bible, and he would open it, and he'd see, oh, and he'd read the text that he just opened to, and he would give a little talk about it. And he'd say, now what do you think, Miss Dolores? What does that say to you? Or he'd hand me the Bible and say, you open it and see what you get to. But he loved that.
God led me to open the Bible. Open the Bible up. I wasn't looking for nothing. I wasn't looking for scripture. I wasn't looking for anything. I didn't thumb through there. I didn't go through no references. I didn't look it up in the concordance. I wasn't looking for any particular verse. I just opened the Bible. I just flipped it open. And I pointed my finger. I just pointed my finger. And this was the verse. I shall not die, but live and declare the works of the Lord. Like that. God did that. He brought that to me. He gave me that word. That happened like 5 times, 4 or 5 times. I opened the Bible and just started reading. And every verse that I read spoke of the same words, same kind of words.
Elvis had the book in his hand, and he gave it to someone. He said, open the book to any page. And the person opened it and started to read. Elvis recited the rest of the page by memory and explained it to the person.
He would jot down and underline things that he'd want to talk to somebody about, and he'd have initials, talk to somebody about so-and-so and somebody else about so-and-so.
The old man is dead. You don't dig up something that's dead. You leave it buried.
The Bible says everyone that's called of God is also glorified when we come into newness of life with Christ. Transformation takes place. But now I'm under the power of the grace of God who raised Jesus from the dead. I'm no longer walking in the old self and the old flesh and the world and the things that I used to walk in this life in sin, having dominion over me. Now that I've been raised from the dead, transformation's taking place. Like we're butterflies, you know, on
caterpillar that turned into a butterfly. You know, caterpillar was in the cocoon, wrapped himself up, and he had a new birth, and he came out as a beautiful butterfly, flew away. The old man must die, so that the new man may live. He rose up, and he took them rags they had on, and he just tore them all of him. I rejoice in you, oh God. I know that you made me ready. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go. He just took those rags, Brother Wayne, and just threw them off of him. And he got up with excitement and he ran to Jesus. He's leaving that old life. He's throwing off them rags. He's throwing off what he knew before, everything that held him down, everything that identified him. He was throwing it off of him. That old man is dead. He left the table, left everything. He just left it sitting there. All that money, bags of money, just left sitting there. Every man owes God. And you pay God with your life. He's not going to tell you anything less than that. I gave him my house, I gave him my car, I gave him my family, I gave him my money, I gave him my land, I gave him my cattle, I gave him my dog, my cat, I gave everything I got. That was the most important thing in his life, was that money. Jesus walked up to him, looked in his eyeballs. He said, follow me. Immediately. He left the money. All the people standing around, the line of them up, and lines and lines of people that waiting. He left his life behind. He gave it all up. Because there's nothing really to give up. You know what? The world of sin and shame is really nothing. No matter how much people think they have nothing. Whatever you think you have is nothing. No matter how much you think you gain nothing. I'm all shook up. Amen. The Lord's going to shake us up. I used to do it with my legs a lot, but now I'm doing it with my arms and shoulders. I'm getting too old now to do it with my legs. Amen. I ain't never going to forget that, man. I used to have a gold jacket once. You know, I'm not going to concern myself with what I was and what I had before. Forget about Elvis, I want to see Jesus. Amen. You know, forget about all these other people, I want to see Jesus. Somebody says, why are you doing what you're doing? And I say, look at Jesus. Because she said, if I can just touch the hem of his garment, I know I'll be healed. Yes. She pushed her way through the crowds around Jesus, so many people, it was like sardines in the can. Jesus was just closed in all around. You couldn't get to him, man. That was worse than trying to get to the president. I mean, you know, just probably hundreds of people stand all around, pressing in, wanting to get near Jesus. That's where I'd have been. How many have been right there? Man, I'd want to be in that crowd, get as close to Jesus as I can. Forget about Elvis, I want to see Jesus. You know, there's a lot of popular people that's been popular throughout the years that have said, that's the image. But if you got to really know me, it's a whole lot different than the image. Elvis said that about himself. Other people have said that about themselves. Other people that are popular and well-known say, well, that's just the image. But to try to live up to that image is hard. Does it mean so much that suddenly you might not even understand why? But you get up and you leave everything behind. Everything that you knew, everything you longed for, everything that you worked for, everything that you struggled for, everything that you worked so hard in your life to achieve. I've come this far in life. Am I going to give it all up? Am I going to lay it aside like it's nothing? Yes. Because Jesus is everything. What he has to offer me is greater than all the world. What he has to offer me is something the whole wide world cannot give me. If a man gains the whole world and loses his soul, what does it profit him? So Jesus is putting the value of the soul, the enrichment of the soul, far greater Do you love me more than these? Do you? Hallelujah. You know, it's like the song says, I'm going to do it my way. Well, I'm not going to do it my way. I'm going to do it God's way. This morning, I want to give you a thought. You've heard that old song that somebody sang, You Were Always on My Mind. Remember? You were always on my mind. You were always on my mind. Hallelujah. When people come to church, that's what they want to do. I know that God is real. He's real in my soul. My God is real, for he has washed and made me whole. His love for me is like a pure gold. My God is real, for I can feel him in my soul. We've been tasting and sipping, drinking a little here, drinking a little there, eating a little bit of this. I was looking at your rings, eating a little bit of this.
But the same God that made you made him too. These men with broken hearts.
Everybody in this world just lives their life as they see it. So many people who think they have happiness, turns around and bites them. I'd sure like to be famous. If you got out there among that kind in that world, you find out maybe real quick you don't want to be there.
Amen.
I don't want to be in that. I don't want to be in that world. I don't care about that. There's too many problems out there, man. There's too many heartache and headaches, and there's too much pressure in this world.
Are you satisfied with the image you've established?
Well, the image is one thing, and a human being is another, you know.
How close is the image to the man?
It's very hard to live up to an image, I'll put it that way.
You took care of business. You showed what was in your heart, and you got up and you did it. You showed that you really love God. You showed that you don't want to stay there. You showed that this is wrong, I got to get up and move, and you got up and moved. Taking care of business. Getting to it and getting it done. Behold what carefulness. Take care of business. I'm a new person. My life is different. My mind is different. My heart is different.
I remember another friend of mine. Thank you, man. Thank you very much.
I'm not making any plans to be buried in a beautiful place. I'm not shopping for the flower to lay around my grave. But if I go before you do, tell my loved ones not to cry. And I'm not looking for a hole in the ground. I'm looking for one in the sky. Well, I'm not looking for a hole in the ground. I'm looking for a hole in the sky. Where I go, I live with the Lord, and my love wants to by and by. Well, I get a little weary with the load that I carry. I never sit and cry. 'Cause I'm not looking for a hole in the ground. I'm looking for one in the sky. Well, my name on a tombstone don't sound good, even if it's written in gold. You can put my body under the ground, but remember I got a soul. Well, my soul lives on through eternity, and so it'll never die.
Elvis was too honest a man to put his real name on a grave that he wasn't in. He ain't in it.
From the time Elvis was able to sign his name, it was Elvis, A-R-O-N. Biographers and researchers attest to this spelling. Even the Tennessee Historical Commission reports it's A-R-O-N, not A-A-R-O-N. All legal documents show it as A-R-O-N.
And I made arrangements with the Lord for a mansion in the sky. Well, I'm not looking for a hole in the ground. I'm looking for one in the sky. And where I go, I live with the Lord, and my love wants to by and by. Well, I get a little weary with the Lord that I carry. I never sit and cry. 'Cause I'm not looking for a hole in the ground. I'm looking for one in the sky.